Bonjour tout le monde. Nous avons fait le verb review aujourd'hui. That was Nouveau Monde in Corneille. I love that song. Remember, listening to music is a great way to expose your ear to the French language and become more accustomed to those foreign sounds. So, on y va. Nous avons fait beaucoup de choses aujourd'hui. We have a lot to do today. My little cultural lesson today is about le métro. So when you go to Paris, you're going to see either an M, you might see a sign like this that says Metropolitan, which is the sign for the metro. And per usual, I'm always curious about history. You know, history plays a huge part of understanding a culture, and understanding culture helps you understand the language better. So all of those are very intertwined. So the Le Metropolitan, the inscription above the metro, right here, entrance indicates the company that built the Underground Railway. It became known as Metro for short, and the name was then adopted worldwide. So I love that. That Metro, of course, came from Metropolitan in Paris. So here I am in the Metro. When I went to Paris last spring, we took the metro everywhere. It is such an easy way to get around. It's an inexpensive way to get around, and it makes the city much more navigable. So I definitely would recommend using the public transport in Paris because it is cheap and quick. And also, I was just obsessed with the architecture of it. It is very clean, and different designs at almost every single stop and neighborhood. And so it really has a 1920s feel to it because that's when it was designed, and a lot of them are original, and so that is so neat. So 4 interesting facts about the metro. The Paris metro system is the second busiest in Paris. So yes, there are a lot of people, but it's still easy to navigate and easy to use, but be mindful of any stuff that you're carrying with you. Always have a close hand on it. It's famous for its art and decor. So just what I was talking about, you know, I have been in a couple different subways around the world, and the metro in Paris is just, I don't know, between the art and decor, it makes it seem much more romantic than maybe it probably is. And so I love that part of it. It's the 4th oldest metro system in the world, and 100 musicians are selected each year and given permission to play in the metro. So this next video that we're going to watch is just me walking through the metro so you guys can have a good idea of how clean it is and what it looks like. Yeah, I absolutely was just, I don't know, I really appreciated it because, you know, that's the thing that's so neat about Paris. They just seem to have the ability to make everything beautiful. So here is just a little bit different experience. My computer's a little bit slow, but me riding the metro in Paris. So hopefully my computer will speed up a little bit and we won't have too many technical issues.
When you're my head, pop music make me go insane. 4 on the floor and the tracks keep changing. Give me a
Yeah, so I have so much footage of the Paris metro, which I think is really funny. So that wasn't as good as I wanted to show you, but c'est la vie, as they say in French. It's just a little bit of an intro of what you might expect when you go to Paris and use the metro system. So how are we gonna communicate when we go use that metro system? We're going to go over a whole slew of verbs today just to refresh your memory, and we'll practice them a lot throughout the semester. So remember, if you are not failing, you are not trying. learning language is all trial and error and just putting yourself out there. So the first verb, and you guys can fill in the cheat sheet as we go, is être, which means to be. And if we were going to conjugate that, je suis, tu es, il, elle est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils, elles sont. So je suis, I am, tu es, you are, il, elle est, he, she is, nous sommes, we are, vous êtes, you are, formal, ils, elles sont, they are. So, remember, je is I, tu is you, il is he, elle is she, nous is we, vous is you, formal, il is they, masculine, elle is they, feminine. And so we're just going to practice with that really quick. So I apologize, my animations are a little bit out of sort, but c'est la vie with that. So for example, mairie. Mairie would be the same subject pronoun as elle, exactement. So if we were going to conjugar le verbe être, how would we conjugate it to agree with Marie or elle? Because essentially it would be the same thing. Because I can say Marie is pretty or she is pretty. And so the conjugation of the verb is going to be the same. Bien, well done, yes. This next one, Marie et Juliette. So now we have two females. What subject pronoun could replace those two females? Exactement. So this is the plural of they, feminine. So it would be elles sont. And the S is silent. So even though elle, it'll sound the same as just she. And so a lot of it is context. So once you heard the sont, you would know that we were talking plural. If you heard LA, that means she is, which is singular. Marie et moi, so Marie and myself. So anytime you have me with somebody else, that means it's going to be we, right? So nous. The form that would go with nous sommes. So it could be mon frère et moi, my brother and I. So anytime I have myself with another person, that's going to turn to we. François, that would be a boy's name, so you could replace François with il, exactement, il est. Marie et François, so this is a boy and a girl. What you would have in French, in Spanish, in Italian, Marie et François, yes, it's plural, but am I going to use il or am I going to use elle? Masculine always dominates. So in this context, I would use ILS, il. For the next one, les étudiants, the students would be they. That would be the subject noun that would replace les étudiants. So les étudiants sont. The students are. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a review with subject pronouns and how you can replace them with subjects. So you guys have 8 sentences to practice avec le verbe être. So go ahead and take a second to do that, and then I am going to give you the answers, les réponses. Okay, on y va. Numéro 1. Les étudiants sont d'accord avec le prof. That means the students agree with the professor. Je suis d'accord. I'm in agreement with you. So, être d'accord means to agree with someone. Numéro 2. Je suis en vacances. I'm on vacation. Je suis en vacances. Numéro 3. Tu es au régime. Tu es au régime. So are you on a diet? You are on a diet. Régime would be a diet, a regime. Numéro 4. Marie est de bonne humeur. Marie est de bonne humeur. So that means Marie is in a good mood. She's got a good humor. Numéro 5. Nous sommes en avance pour les cours. We are early for the class. Nous sommes en avance. Sommes en avance. Être en avance means to be early, to be in advance. That's why I love French. There's so many cognates. I think it's even easier than Spanish. How are we doing so far? Comment va? Bien? Ça va? Numéro 6. Vous êtes bien? Vous êtes bien? Are you well? And so this would be the formal way of asking somebody how they are. Numéro 7. Ils sont de mauvaise humeur. So they are in a bad mood. So bonne humeur is good humor. Good mood. Mauvais humeur is bad mood. So numéro 8. Je suis anglais. Je suis anglais. I'm English. And numéro 9. Ma famille est française. Ma famille est française. My family is French. So with this one, remember, with a family, I would say my family is big. I wouldn't say my family are big. So even though you have a whole bunch of people in your family, it counts as one singular unit. So anytime you have something as my family, my team, my class, you would use the singular third person. My class is interesting. You wouldn't say my class are interesting unless you were going to make that plural. Okay? So our next verb, avoir, which means to, does not mean to be, it means to have. So let's fix that really quick. So to have, which these are all obviously essential verbs to be using, to have something, to be something. And so these are all great verbs to have in your arsenal. So I'm going to have to get rid of this now too. Add animation, and we're going to say disappear. Yeah. Okay, cool. Très cool. Okay, so avoir is to have. When you conjugate avoir, this is irregular. It's j'ai, and you have j'ai apostrophe because it starts with an A. Tu as, il, elle a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. So I have, you have, he, she has, we have, you have formal, they have plural. So you have, again, a list of sentences that I want you to complete. So go ahead and let that subject pronoun conjugate the verb to agree with that subject pronoun, and we will go over those answers. So numéro 1, quel âge avez-vous? Quel âge avez-vous? J'ai 20 ans. J'ai 25 ans. So how old are you is this question. Numéro 2. Il a l'air triste. Il a l'air triste. He seems to be sad. So he has the air of sadness. So he seems sad. Numéro 3. Julie a l'air d'une artiste. Julie a l'air d'une artiste. She has the air of an artist, like she's an artist. So Julie conjugates to be a. Numéro 4. Nous avons l'intention de faire quelque chose. Nous avons l'intention de faire quelque chose. We have the intention of doing something. So quelque chose means something. Je voudrais faire quelque chose. I would like to do something. Numéro 5. Ils ont de la chance. Ils ont de la chance. So they are lucky. So avoir de la chance means to be lucky. Numéro 6. Le prof toujours a tort. La prof toujours a tort. So toujours means always. Numéro 7. J'ai mal aux yeux. J'ai mal aux yeux. So my eyes hurt. J'ai mal à la tête. J'ai mal à la... Whatever you are hurting, you say j'ai mal. J'ai mal à la tête means I have a headache. J'ai mal aux yeux means that my eyes don't feel well. Et numéro 8, you can see the answer right here. Les étudiants n'ont pas raison. Les étudiants n'ont pas raison. Avoir la raison means to be correct. So if I say les étudiants n'ont pas raison, the students are not correct or they are wrong. So avoir raison means to be correct or means to be right. Okay. On y va. How's it going? Ça va? Ça va bien? Ça va mal? Is it going well? Is it going bad? Is it starting to ring a couple bells? Is it like riding a bike and it's kind of coming back to you? So here we have le verb faire, to do or to make. So far we've done être, to be, avoir, to have, faire, to do or to make. And so these are obviously all very popular verbs. So again, this is irregular. And when we go to conjugate it, it is je fais, tu fais, il fait, nous faisons, vous faites, ils font. So I make, I do, you make, I do, or you do, he makes, or he's doing, we make, or we're doing, or we do. So remember, these, I can say je fais le devoir. I'm doing the homework. So it doesn't mean I do the homework. It can mean I do the homework, but it also can mean I am doing the homework, right? So it can conjugate to both of those things. Je fais la cuisine, I'm making dinner, or I make dinner. It can translate to both of those things. So just be aware of that. So again, you guys have a list of verbs that I want you to conjugate. Go ahead and do that, and then I will give you the answers. So faire is to do or to make. So je fais la cuisine. I'm making dinner. I'm making food. Numéro 2, nous faisons le jardin. We're making the garden. Or we're working in the garden. We're making the garden. Tu fais le devoir. Le devoir is homework. Tu fais le devoir. You are doing the homework. You do the homework. Numéro 4, Monique fait le lit. Monique fait le lit. Monique makes the bed. Le lit means bed. Tu fais le lit? Do you make your bed? Quelquefois, je fais le lit, mais dépend en la situation pour moi. So I said, je fais le lit quelquefois. So we did the word earlier, quelque chose, which means something. Quelquefois means sometimes. So je fais le lit quelquefois. Sometimes I make my bed or the bed. Numéro 5, ma sœur et moi faisons les cours. My sister and I are taking courses or classes. Numéro 6, ils font le vaisselle, which means they do the dishes. And numéro 7, il fait beau. Il fait beau. It's nice outside. Il fait beau. So that is pertaining to the weather. And so now what we're going to do is just go into your regular AR verbs and ER verbs. So I just gave you 3 irregulars, and of course there's always going to be irregular verbs, but for the most part, with infinitives, the largest group of French verbs end in ER. And thankfully, most of them conjugate the same exact way. So those in the second group end in IR. So to form the present tense of these verbs, drop the final IR or ER and you add the endings. And so I'm just going to delete this really quick so you guys can see the endings here. So finir means to finish. Parler means to speak. So je finis, tu finis, elle finit, nous finissons, vous finissez, ils, elles finissent. So that's fini. So I finish, you finish, he finishes, we finish, you finish, they finish. And so you have the S, IS, IS, IT. So you just got rid of that R and you added an S, a T, an SSONS. So that one is a little bit longer. For the vous form, SSEZ, SSENT. So parler, that means to speak. Je parle français, je parle espagnol, je parle chinois. So je parle, tu parles, il, elle parle, nous parlons, vous parlez, ils parlent. Okay, so I speak, you speak, he, she speaks, or I'm speaking, we are speaking, or we speak, you are speaking. Parlez-vous français? Do you speak French? Parlez-vous anglais? Do you speak English? Parlez-vous allemand? Do you speak German? Okay? Ils parlent, they speak. So here are your endings for these verbs, and that goes the same for all IR verbs and all ER verbs. So you guys have about 15 sentences of different IR, ER verbs. And don't worry, even if you don't know what the verb means, you still can conjugate it correctly by looking at the subject pronoun. Feel free to use your Google to look one word up. I don't recommend it for doing like full translations, but I'm using Google all the time. If I say, how do you say shelf in French? How do you say bagel in Spanish? You know, there's so many words and we have so much to retain. I use that as a resource all of the time. So feel free to do that because it is very useful. So go ahead, take a little bit of time and do those sentences and we will get back together here. So here we have another sign for the metro. And so you saw one in the beginning with that beautiful lamppost metro, the post with the metro. So there's all different sorts of signs that indicate where you can find them if you are looking for them. So numéro un, papa finit son livre. So dad finishes his book. So son means his. Numéro deux, moi, j'écoute une nouvelle cassette. So let's talk about dating ourselves if I'm listening to a cassette. It's been a minute, but j'écoute une nouvelle cassette. I am listening to a new cassette. I actually did used to listen to cassette tapes in the 90s when I drove to school. Numéro 3, mon cousin Philippe jouait de la guitare. So my cousin Philippe plays the guitar. Jouez-vous la guitare? Jouez-vous la guitare? Jouez-vous la guitare? Excuse me. Jouez-vous la guitare? Do you play the guitar? Moi, non, mais je joue le piano. Un peu, a little bit. Numéro 4. Nous applaudissons. I feel like it's missing a D in here. Applaudissons. Let me fix that really quick because that's too much. Nous applaudissons. Okay. So what does that sound like? You might not know that word, but it looks like what it is, which means we are applauding. Numéro 5, ils arrivent à 7 heures. They arrive at 7 o'clock, à 7 heures, à 8 heures, à 9 heures, à 10 heures, at 10 o'clock, at 9 o'clock. Numéro 6, on habite à Paris maintenant. On habite à Paris maintenant. So they live in Paris right now. So I just really want to quickly go over what "en" means because there's a lot of different definitions. So the French pronoun "en" generally means we in English. However, it can also refer to one, people, you, they, he or she, and even I. So I really want to show you an example of this because I think it's important. So I could say, on habite, we live in Paris right now. I live in Paris right now. She lives in Paris. They live in Paris. It can mean any of those. So just to give you a better example of that, I'm just going to show you this video.
If you don't use "en" when you're speaking French, you're missing out. This is a pillar of the French language these days. "En" basically means nous, right? It means we. But it is the way to take your French from sounding very tenu, very formal, to sounding much more colloquial. Instead of saying, oh, nous allons sortir ce soir, we are going to go out tonight. Just say, on conjugates like il and elle, like third person singular, but it is used to mean we. Often in French textbooks, they'll translate it as one, and you should not use it like essays and things like that. You know how in English we'll often use one, like one would think that blah blah blah. In French, it's going to be the opposite. You're actually going to use nous. We think that blah blah blah, because the nous is more formal than the un. There you go. So don't think of it as one. Think of it as the more casual we. If you don't use "en,"
So hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight on that, especially with the colloquial part of it. And if you want to sound more French, then you would say, that's why I say, on y va, let's go, right? I'm talking to all of us. We are going, and it's a more informal way to speak. Okay, so, on y va. Ici, on parle français. So here, we speak French. Here, one speaks French. Here, they speak French. It can mean any of those. Ici means here. Numéro 8, la classe finit à 10h15. So the class finishes at 10 o'clock, 10:15. I was going to fix my little error there, but it doesn't want to let me. Okay, numéro... so la classe finit à 10h15. So the class finishes at 10:15. So remember, quart means a quarter of an hour, which means 15 minutes. And so that's good to remember. Numéro 9, nous fermons nos livres. We close our books. Fermer is to close. Numéro 10, les étudiants remplissent les livres. Les étudiants remplissent les livres. Numéro 11, le prof entre dans la classe, salle de classe. Le prof entre dans la salle de classe. The teacher enters the classroom. Numéro 12, moi, je cherche mon cahier. Moi, je cherche mon cahier. I'm looking for my folder. Numéro 13, l'étudiant remerciait le prof. L'étudiant remerciait le prof. The student thanks the professor, the teacher. Merci, kind of see that word in there. Numéro 14, nous chantons beaucoup. Nous chantons beaucoup, we sing a lot. Je ne chante bien, mais j'aime bien chanter. I don't sing well, but I love to sing. Numéro 15, je choisis parler anglais. Je choisis parler anglais. I choose to speak in English. So I hope that this was a good review for you before we start with like our vocab and those other things. And so remember, it's a journey. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint when you're learning a language. And there's lots of information to remember. So repetition is key. Being courageous is key, and having a good time to make it worth it is also key. So, on y va. We keep on moving forward. I look forward to seeing you again. À bientôt et bonne journée. Au revoir.